Lately, my social media feed has been full of surprises. A childhood friend, one I'd long considered a kindred spirit, sharing a pandemic conspiracy theory on Facebook. A mom I used to regularly run into at the playground, posting photos of her mask-free dinner party. Like a lot of people, I'm leaning on my friendships more than I ever have before. A long-standing group chat with my 3 best friends feels like a lifeline right now, even though the conversation mostly consists of musings about whether it's okay to go to the grocery store for just one thing. Consensus, probably not. But some of my other relationships haven't been so aligned, and it's left me feeling unsettled. Jarred. Confused, even. Had I really gotten these people wrong? How upset was I allowed to be? Rachel O'Neill, a practicing therapist and the director of clinical effectiveness for the therapy app Talkspace, says she's hearing from many clients that the pandemic is surfacing important differences in perspectives, creating a sense of division in their relationships or highlighting divisions that were already there. This situation has illuminated the different ways people choose to progress through a situation that impacts everyone, she says. Some people have adapted their life for the greater good, while others are taking a more individualistic approach. And when your friends' values are revealed, you may not like what you see. For better or worse, we're entering a period of relationship reckoning, a conflict-ridden phase that not all friendships will survive. Here's how to navigate it. Reflect on your priorities before you can decide how to react when a friend does something you see as unforgivably selfish, say, taking a trip to a crowded beach or refusing to don a mask on a crowded sidewalk. It's important to take stock of your priorities. What you don't want in your life. This is a good time to re-evaluate life in general, to decide what's working and what isn't, O'Neill says. And relationships fall into that. This is a good time to re-evaluate life in general, to decide what's working and what isn't, O'Neill says. And relationships fall into that. Keep in mind that living through a pandemic may mean you have different priorities than usual. Something you valued before might suddenly seem unimportant. Maybe you used to love post-work cocktail hours with an affable neighbor, but now small talk feels pointless, in addition to being mostly impossible, and you'd choose to spend that time with your partner or family instead. Get ready for the re-entry crash after a period of prolonged stress. It's normal to feel too drained to do anything. Forge.medium.com. Along the same lines, you may have formed some new beliefs and opinions, which means you may outgrow people in your life, even people you were once close to. For example, if you've become heavily involved in relief efforts for financially vulnerable people in your neighborhood, you may find yourself pulling away from a friend who doesn't seem to show the same concern. If someone in your family has had COVID, you probably don't feel all that great about keeping up with a friend who insists that lockdown measures are overblown. I think we're going to see a shift in what friendships continue going forward, based on discrepancies in values and how they are reflected in social distancing measures, says Grace Dowd, a psychotherapist in Austin. A lot of people aren't sure if they can go back to a close relationship with a certain person because of what they're seeing. Consider context and character. Another way to help yourself think more clearly about a friendship that you're currently questioning: look beyond the inciting trigger. Sure, a close friend's weekend beach jaunt might alarm you. But consider the situation's context and your friend's character. Are they spending time by the water, hopefully, practicing social distancing, because their state recently opened up beaches and parks? Or does your friend have a history of being irresponsible or inconsiderate? There is such a discrepancy between state, local, and federal guidelines, so it's important to consider where is this person living, what might their local governing authorities be telling them, says Dowd. Sometimes, how people respond to the pandemic reflects something a lot deeper. But sometimes, the two of you may be working within different frameworks for what's considered high risk. Have a conversation. You might feel like something needs to be said to a friend who's acting in ways you consider dangerous. But since having a conversation about your concerns is an emotional investment, think about whether that investment will be worthwhile. With everything, it's a risk and reward, says Dowd. How do I risk telling you where my boundaries are or where I stand if I don't feel like there will be a reward of a really positive friendship? If you feel like the benefit of the friendship will outweigh the risk of a tough conversation, that's a good sign. You should try to work through it. A decision-making framework for re-entering the world. Having a plan in place will make it easier to navigate the gray area ahead. Forge.medium.com that said, a friend reacting defensively when you raise your concerns could be a red flag. The mark of a friendship is how we communicate these boundaries and how the other person responds, says Dowd. What makes this tricky is that these disagreements aren't just political or philosophical. In many cases, personal safety is on the line. It's hard to have true compromise right now. If you believe masks are safe and another person doesn't, you can't really compromise your value around safety, O'Neill says. Meeting in the middle is a little harder. Ultimately, O'Neill says, the future of your friendship may come down to if there is any space to meet in the middle. Assuming you're not seeing each other in person, think about whether it's possible to agree to disagree. If you realize you may not change each other's minds, but you can put aside your differences, she says, then focus on the things you do agree on and the places you do feel connected. Take time to grieve. It's never fun to see a relationship shift, but Dowd says major stressors like a pandemic can be an accelerant for both intimacy or distance. For example, she says while many couples are moving in together faster than usual, just as many are having relationship problems and considering splitting up. The same is true of friendships. This time can bring you closer than ever as you support each other through it. But it can also expose fault lines that may have been there all along. A relationship that may not otherwise stand the test of time may really be tested right now, Dowd says. This could either bring us closer to people or cause us to realize we didn't have as much in common as we thought. That's normal. Friendships will always come and go, and letting someone fade out of your life doesn't mean they didn't enrich it. And as much as it may hurt to realize you're no longer compatible with someone, there's comfort in the clarity. You're learning who in your life will continue to make it better, through this time and into the other side.